Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Max with BuzzTox here, and I am back with a Westworld Season 3, Episode 7 preview video, where I go through all of the trailers and I theorize and predict what will happen next. And I think whether it's Episode 7 or the season finale, I think we're going to get an episode that's really dedicated to dissecting Caleb as a character. And I think this episode will be very reminiscent of William's episode in Season 2, Episode 9. It really focused in on the psyche of William, how he always lived in the park. And it really explored his cornerstone memory, his wife dying. But all in all, it acted like a character study, and I think we're going to get the same thing with Caleb. He's currently going to be with Delores in Westworld, but also he's going to be living through his reveries, or memories. I think what's different with Caleb, though, is I think he doesn't understand the truth of who he is. He only knows what he was led to believe. And there's so many questions that he has. He noticed that Liam seemed disgusted by him before he was killed. So Caleb understands that there's a big part of him that he doesn't understand. And Delores told him that she would tell him. And I think in this scene we see that Delores is really going to show Caleb. I think we could say that this is going to be inside the Insight facility, where Caleb is going to be able to connect with his past. And I think he's going to be able to dissect it, and I think it's going to present itself very different than what we think it is. But I think the first part of Caleb's story goes as we expect. He's an outlier. His mind thinks differently. He feels like the world is no longer real or it doesn't have consequence, and Insight sees him as a potential threat. So naturally, as an outlier, he is sent to war. They were heavily monitored so they could actively predict what him and his friend Francis were going to do with grips. But then they were also given limbotics, these drugs that we see. We see Caleb's mom take it. We see them try to give it to William. And we see this businessman take it to go to sleep. And this drug is really emotion control. And it probably opens up your mind to be more susceptible to new information. But I believe with these interactions with Caleb and Francis, we see them go on a trajectory where an incident happens and then they realize that nobody cares about them, that the world is rigged, that the people who are in charge of this world don't care if they were alive or dead. So because of that, him and Francis made a pact that they have to stick together. And we learn about this in episode 1, when Caleb admits what Francis believed, rather than the advice that Francis actually did give him. And then after this event, I think Francis is going to be evaluated. And we see that here where Caleb walks to go visit his friend. And it still seems like they're in the military. And then I think they'll return to the real world, still feeling like nobody cares about them. And it doesn't matter what actions they take because nothing is real. Everything is monitored. And then comes the event on how Francis died. It's being presented to us like they're almost in Russia, looking at the engravings here. And they have some type of hostage, and then when Caleb was away, his friend got shot and died. But I think that's how the information was presented to Caleb. I think what actually happened was Caleb and Francis felt like the world was stacked against them. So they ended up going into a building and either kidnapping somebody or doing something very rash, but not in Russia, in California. And we can see that these two individuals walking towards a building in California are wearing the exact same thing as Francis and Caleb in the moments Francis died. So I believe the true story of Caleb is that he went to the military, he realized that the real world doesn't care about Francis or himself, and they took a stand and went into California and tried to either take a stand against Sirach and Insight or against a governmental body. But it resulted in Francis dying and Caleb being basically lobotomized, experimented on, and altered. He was led to believe that him and Francis in California, they were really in Russia to capture a secret asset for the United States. He was led to believe instead of attacking American soil, he was protecting it, like in this scene. So all of this Caleb has to unpack because Rehoboam changed his memories. I believe much like William went through, they give you the drug and then they present to you new memories from these goggles. These memories have been created by Rehoboam. They are not real. And we as people are products of our memories. So essentially they tried to drown out Caleb's previous memories and introduce new ones, to change Caleb's character and alter him from being an outlier. Why they would keep him around, I'm not 100% sure. But I think what this tells us is this is a very similar process to who Bernard is. Bernard was based off of a real character, Arnold. But then Delores realized that Arnold never really made it, so she changed who Bernard is. And you can tell by Bernard's module. It's not black like every other host. It's a mix between red and black because he is both human and host. He is part Arnold, but he's been changed to also be Bernard. And the same is with Caleb. The true Caleb is still in there, but he's been altered by Sirach, by Rehoboam, given new memories to believe. And that's one of the reasons why Caleb is so important and why all these potential outliers are so important, is because Caleb could become a host just like Bernard. Delores would just have to create a new pearl and download the Caleb character to it. And I think that's what we see here with Delores and Caleb in Westworld. I'm not 100% sure what's in the bag, but I think Delores is there to, one, get more data from the Forge, see what other characters have been in Westworld. Two, she could access the Valley Beyond and see what has happened with this secret simulated host society. And three, she could also print new pearls. Some of them could have real characters on them, others could be blank slates that could be created for Caleb to transfer from a human to a host body. And that's very similar to what I believe William is going to go through in his story arc. But unlike Bernard and Caleb, William would be the first person to actively move from a human to a host body and stay true to who he is without being changed. A complete fidelity copy. And we see him going through the story beats that he was expected to go on before. Ford told William that this game was for him. It's called The Door. He begins where he ends, and he ends where he began. And we've seen throughout his journey, he's been making decisions to make things right. He's been cutting ties with the real world, like his daughter, but he's also made the right decisions, like save Lawrence's wife, and he's been punished for his actions in the past. And now he's made a decision that it doesn't matter whether he was in control of his actions or not. He can control who he is today. And at this point, William believes he's going to save the world. But what's funny is we realize that William last episode knows that humanity is a maggot on Earth. So in other words, saving the world is not the same as saving humanity, because humanity is a curse on Earth. So I think we'll see William do what he deems right. I think he'll eventually start fighting for the hosts. It's time for a new species to walk on Earth, to save the world, because humanity will eventually lead to its own destruction. And it basically turns into a war of the two big heads of two giant tech companies. You have Sirach from Insight, who represents total human control, and he wants to save humanity. Whereas you have William fighting for Delos, who created new life that is fighting for their freedom. And I think we'll see parts of this unfold in this season. Right now, William is working with and is with Bernard. And Bernard is clearly a key role in this whole thing. Delores has kept him alive because he serves a purpose. And I think Bernard has a very big purpose, but a part of that purpose is to save William. Because I think things aren't as they seem. Delores considers Bernard a friend and realizes that he's very important. And I think she also feels the same about William. They were once friends. She remembers good William just as much as she remembers bad William. And I think just like how William came into her own world to make her suffer, to make her conscious, she is going to come into William's world, make him suffer so he can find the door. But all in all, I think because of Dolores' actions, she started an uprising with the people. I think she's going to fight her way into the Insight facility, and I don't know if Maeve is going to be against her or with her. But it seems like in this scene, Delores is running away from Maeve, because Maeve is just blinded by being with her daughter. But all in all, I feel like this season could end on a potentially bad note for Delores. She's done nothing but succeed, and now I think it's time for her to fall a bit. And I think at the end of this season, we'll see this scene. I think Delores will be defeated. She's missing an arm, and she's being filled with Westworld host stuff. I still don't know the name for it. And I think Caleb will end up remaking her, and the show will end with Delores and Caleb almost starting from the beginning. And I think Sirach will still be out there. But that's all I have to say about what is to come. Please let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But until next time, see you guys later.